Hi, I'm Dan with Summit Sports. In today's video, we're going to show you the different shapes, sizes, and features of kayaks and show you how these shapes, sizes, and features will determine the boat's ride in the water and help you better determine what boat is best for you. When looking at boats, the key features that you're going to be looking at are going to be hull shape, chine shape, rocker shape, length, and width of a boat. All of these are going to affect the boat in many different ways. The key thing we're going to look at first is going to be hull shape. The four main hull shapes are going to be a flat, a rounded, a V shape, and a pontoon shape. The first hull shape that we're going to cover is going to be the flat hull shape. The flat hull shape is meant to be very nice and stable, mainly found in a more recreational kayaks and boats meant for flatter waters. You're often going to find a flat hull on fishing boats as well because of that stability. The second hull shape that we're going to be looking at will be that rounded hull shape. The rounded hull shape is very maneuverable in the water, meant to be able to get side to side and feel very stable in rougher waters, but it will feel a little bit tippier in a calmer situation because of that rounded hull shape. The third one that we're looking at is going to be the V-shape hull. The V-shape hull is mainly found in sea kayaks and boats that are meant to be on the water traveling in a straight line at a longer distance. That V-shape cuts through the water very easily and it makes the boat travel fast and track at in a straight line very, very easily. It is going to be a little tippier in rough waters, but it is meant for a more advanced kayaker, if you may. The final shape that we're going to be looking at would be the pontoon shape. The pontoon shape is kind of a mix between your flat hull and your rounded hull. It's got the stability of a flat hull, so that's why you'll often find it on fishing boats and your more recreational boats, but it also has a bit of that rounded shape that allows that boat to maneuver quickly in the water and turn a little bit easier. So now that we've covered hull shape, let's move on to stability. The 2 points to stability that we're going to be looking at are going to be primary stability and secondary stability. The primary stability of a boat is the initial steadiness of that boat. When you first sit into that boat and it rocks a little side to side, that's its primary stability. It's how comfortable that boat is in just its normal paddling state in calmer waters. Secondary stability is how stable a boat is when you lean it on its side or it potentially gets pushed a little bit on its side by some larger waves. Many boats that are going to have a good primary stability are not always going to have the greatest secondary stability. A boat with good primary stability is usually going to be a more recreational boat, a boat that's meant for calmer waters that isn't going to get pushed around too much. It'll give that kayaker a feel of steadiness and ease in the water. A boat with better secondary stability is going to be a boat that when it gets pushed on its side or you lean on its side, it can stay there and hold steady. So you're often going to find that in a more white water type of boat or in many fishing boats when you're leaning off the side of a boat and really pushing that boat towards the edge of the water. That's its secondary stability. It's how steady that boat is when it's already on its edge. Oftentimes you're going to find boats that have a better secondary stability are not going to have a great primary stability and might feel a little tippy in flatter waters, but is going to be much more easy to control in rougher waters. The only thing that's a little different with all of these is fishing kayaks. Fishing kayaks also oftentimes have a large primary stability with a great secondary stability, so you can lean over the edge, but also it tracks straight and feels nice and stable in the water. Now that we've looked at stability and hull shapes of boats, let's cover chine shapes of boats. There's going to be a very hard or a soft chine, and then there's going to be a blend between the two. Chine shape is where the side of the boat meets the bottom or the hull of a boat. So a very hard chine is going to have a very dramatic angle and meet the side of the boat at a sharper angle. You're typically going to find a harder chine in sea kayaks that are meant to travel longer distances on water and are meant to track a lot straighter. That hard chine shape is going to help that boat track straight, but also is going to create a boat that's going to be a little tippier in rougher waters and more likely to get moved by those bigger waves. A soft chine shape is very rounded. A soft chine is going to be nice and stable in rougher waters, and that soft chine shape is going to add to its secondary stability. You're often going to find a very soft chine shape in boats that are meant to be more maneuverable, like whitewater boats or river boats. These boats are meant to be able to move in those rougher waters and not get tipped, but also be able to track nice and easy in those rough waters. You will find a softer chine will be a little more tippy. In calmer waters, that initial stability will be less, but it will have a high secondary stability, will help that boat handle those rougher waves. Now that we've covered chine shape and soft and hard chine, we're going to be looking at rocker profiles of boats. The rocker profile of a boat is the shape of the boat from the bow to the stern. The best way you can view a rocker profile of a boat is to either flip it upside down and look at that shape from front to back, or when you set that boat down on flat conditions, you can kind of see the front or the back of that boat rock up, and you can almost feel it teeter-totters a little bit from front to back. So a boat with a lot of rocker profile, the bow of that boat's going to really come high up in the air, and a lot of that bow is going to be out of the water, which is going to create a much more maneuverable boat. A boat with a lot of rocker profile is often going to be found in whitewater boats and boats that are meant to be very maneuverable in the water and be able to handle rougher waves. When you've got a boat that's a lot flatter rocker profile, when you've got it upside down, you're going to see it's very flat from front to back. Or when it's regular side up, you're going to see that the bow and the stern are pretty close to the ground. That flatter profile is going to create a boat that's going to track straighter in the water and is going to be much harder to maneuver side to side, but a lot more stable for your average consumer kayaker out there. So I would say anyone that's looking for a boat that's meant to be really maneuverable is going to be looking for a lot of rocker profile. Someone that's looking for a boat that's going to be tracking straight and going to go a lot straighter in calmer waters is going to be looking for a lot flatter of a rocker profile. There's a blend of the two, and somewhere in the middle, you're going to find a boat that's going to do a little bit of everything, but it's all up to you to determine what rocker profile is best. Now that we've covered shapes of kayaks, let's cover sizing of kayaks. Sizing of kayaks is going to be the length of a boat, the width of a boat, and the weight capacity of a boat. Length of boat is going to be one of the most important things when determining what kayak is best for you. Length of boats is going to range from anywhere as short as 5 feet to as long as 16 feet long. Your shorter boats are going to be much more maneuverable, going to be easier to turn, and easier to handle in tight situations. If you're looking for a good river boat or a boat that's going to be nice and maneuverable, you're going to want to keep it nice and short. But if you're looking for a boat that tracks nice and straight and can handle a little bit rougher waves, you're going to be looking for a longer boat, a boat that can handle going a little bit farther and handle a little more weight capacity. When looking at length of a boat, one of the key things you want to think about is how much leg room do you need in this boat? If you're going out and looking for something that's nice and comfortable and you're 6 feet tall or taller, you should be looking at a boat that's at least 12 feet long. If you're shorter than that, then you can start looking at a 10-foot boat or shorter. A lot of the time, you're going to want a shorter boat to be more maneuverable, but if you're too tall to get in that boat, it's just not going to be a comfortable ride in general. So when looking at length of boats, not only do you have to worry about the space that you have in it, but also you want to start thinking about where are you going to be able to put this kayak and how are you going to be able to move it from place to place. A shorter boat is much more maneuverable and easier to put on top of your car, whereas a longer boat, oftentimes you might want to look at a trailer. This is why oftentimes we tell people buying fishing boats that are 14 feet long, you should probably be looking at a trailer. But that 14-foot long kayak is going to be much more comfortable and a lot better on a long day than someone buying a 10-foot kayak and is not going to have a great time on the water. So now that we've looked at length of boat, let's really look at the width of some boats and try to figure out what width of a boat you're going to need for your experience on the water. So when looking at the width of a kayak, there's going to be multiple different widths. A narrower boat typically is going to track a lot straighter in the water and is typically going to move a lot faster in the water. Your narrower boats are typically going to be your more sea kayaks, your boats that are meant to cut through waves and track a lot straighter and go a lot farther on their day. Your wider boats typically are going to be a lot more stable and have a lot more primary stability, and but are gonna move a little bit slower through the water. You're typically gonna find boats that are nice and wide in your fishing boats or your average recreational boats, because those are the people that are gonna be leaning over the sides a little bit more, and that extra width is gonna help that stability that you're looking for when you're out fishing or you're a normal recreational kayaker. So from width, let's go on and talk about weight capacity. All kayaks are gonna come with an initial weight limit. You never wanna be pushing the far end of that weight limit, because that'll create a very tippy boat in the water. So when looking at the weight limit of a kayak, you not only wanna look at your initial weight in that boat, but you also wanna think about all the extra stuff you might be bringing with you on your day on the water. So if you're just a normal recreational kayaker and you wanna bring your cooler with you, you might wanna think about getting a kayak that's 50 or 60 pounds heavier, or can carry 50 or 60 pounds heavier than your initial weight. But if you're a fisherman that plans on bringing all his extra gear with him, you wanna make sure that you're getting a kayak that can hold more than 100 to 200 pounds of more than your initial weight. If you don't get a boat that can hold more than your initial weight, you're gonna have a very tippy boat and you're not gonna have a great time on the water. So when thinking about getting a kayak, you really wanna make sure that that initial weight limit of that boat not only holds your weight, but also will hold the weight of everything else that you're gonna carry with you. Now that we've covered the shapes and sizes of kayaks, let's look at a couple of the key features that go into all kayaks and show you how those are gonna affect your day out on the water. First thing that you're gonna wanna look at is gonna be your dry storage when looking at features. Dry storage is one of the most important parts of a kayak, because it really is gonna allow you to carry some of the most important things that you need when out on the water. So if you're looking to be out on the water for a longer period of time, you're gonna want more dry storage. You're typically gonna find boats with more dry storage in your larger sea kayaks or your fishing kayaks, guys that are gonna be on the water for a longer period of time and gonna need to carry more gear. The boats that are gonna have less dry storage are typically gonna be your more recreational kayaks. A lot of recreational kayaks are only going to have a little bit of dry storage where you can store the important stuff like your phone or your wallet or your keys, but really is not going to have a ton of extra storage on these recreational kayaks for any extra gear. So if you plan on being out on the water for a long period of time, we want to make sure that you have enough dry storage to be able to enjoy that time out on the water. One of the key features that I think is often overlooked when buying a new kayak is the seat of the kayak. I think the seat of the kayak is one of the most important things to look at when trying to determine what type of boat is going to be best for you. If you're an older customer or someone that needs a little more support out on the water, you're going to want to look for a boat that's going to have a higher seat, a more supportive seat with some more cushioning to it. Often you're going to find those in your more average recreational kayaks or your fishing kayaks. These are going to have a high back to them, going to have a lot of padding to them. It's going to make you feel nice and supported for that long period of time out on the water. But then if you're looking for something that can travel longer distances on the water and you're looking to be able to maneuver a little bit quicker, you're going to want to look at a shorter seat. Something that you can turn in a little bit easier and your body can maneuver a little bit easier. You're often going to find these in your river boats, your whitewater boats, and most of your sit inside type of boats that are more maneuverable. So when you're looking for a kayak, we really suggest that you think about how much stability you need, how much padding you need, how much support you may need out of your seat, and don't skimp on a boat. If it costs you a couple extra bucks to buy a boat with a better seat and you're gonna have a more fun time on the water, we suggest just spend a couple bucks more and get a boat that is gonna have a supportive seat for you and the right seat for the conditions that you're going out on. All right, a couple of the final features that we're going to be looking at here are going to be more dedicated to your more crossover / fishing type of boats. One of the key features when looking at a fishing boat is going to be your rod holders. You're going to want to make sure that that fishing boat has got enough space to hold all the rods that you might want to take with you. Also, you're going to want to determine if you want an outside rod holder, an inside rod holder, and how many rods you want to take with you out on the water that day. So when picking out a fishing kayak, just make sure that you got enough space for all the rods that you're going to be taking with you out on the day. Otherwise, you're not going to have enough gear to really enjoy yourself out there. The other key things that we're going to be looking at here are going to be your pedal versus electric and gas-powered propellers here. Your electric and gas powered propellers are definitely going to be your more expensive, whereas your pedal drives are going to be a little bit cheaper, but still are going to push that upper echelon of boats. These boats are definitely meant to be out on the water for longer times and maneuver in deeper waters. These boats are great for someone that's looking to cover a long distance but may not have the upper body strength to cover a long distance, or someone that's looking to fish the banks and can't have their hands full with a paddle all the time and may be fishing off the side of their boat and need to use that pedal or paddle drive to move themselves out of a situation without picking up their actual paddle. So when you're picking out a boat, if you're determining that you want a fishing kayak that is easy to maneuver and quick in and out of most situations, you're probably going to be wanting to look at something with a pedal or propeller drive so you can move in the water a lot faster and be out on the water a lot longer time without getting as tired. If you have any further questions, feel free to reach out or visit us at summitsports.com.